102 FM. Game On's Fantasy Football.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Game On Fantasy Football podcast. It is Game Week 11, and I'm joined by Phil McGrath from FantasyPremierLeagueTransfers.com to give you all the information you need to know to excel at Game Week 11. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is good to see you so bright and breezy on this November morning.
Yeah, it makes a change being in here so early. I actually feel like I'm awake for once.
Don't know if you had enough coffee yet, but seeing as you're still being nice, we'll crack on. Let us have a quick look back at Game Week 10 and what jumped out at you during this game week.
I suppose the immediate one would have to be Manchester City's overwhelming win over Norwich, and then Newcastle's win over Chelsea were probably the two standout games of the week. Realistically, City, we kind of spoke about it last week. We fancied them to do quite well against Norwich. Fancied Aguero in particular to do well, along with Silva, both on the score sheet. Aguero, however, kind of stole the show. 3 assists and a goal. Probably a little bit wasteful in front of goal, though. I think he possibly could have had a hat-trick in that one, and he really didn't quite convert. But listen, at the end of the day, he still did extremely well. Picked up the full complement of bonus points, and City are looking rampant at the moment.
They are, and Newcastle, it was a great victory at home to Chelsea. Gouffran and Remy on the score sheet for Newcastle. Kabaye and Ita with the assists, and really, really good result for them.
Yeah, I mean, they started off very, very slowly. I thought, looking at the first 20 minutes, I thought Chelsea were going to boss the game completely, and, you know, it was only a matter of time before they got their first goal. But credit to Newcastle, after the break, they came out and they went at Chelsea. You know, I think that was the plan, was to go at them. And listening to Jose Mourinho afterwards, you know, and he said, what went wrong? And he said, I made 11 mistakes. You know, I picked 11 wrong players. But, you know, he said, I always exaggerate when we lose. But yeah, it was a strange one for me. I don't think there was too many people would have seen Chelsea being beaten by Newcastle. But having said that, Mourinho has never actually won at St James's Park, so that record is still being upheld. Outside of that, I mean, United beating Fulham 3-1.
Comfortable enough.
Yeah, Valencia, Van Persie and Rooney on the score sheet with assists for Van Persie and Rooney as well, and that young man Januzaj getting in with an assist, having been dropped the week before. Coutinho gets an assist. There were quite a few managers happy there. There weren't too many other standout performers for me across the week. I mean, obviously the Arsenal-Liverpool game was the one a lot of people were waiting for. I don't think it quite lived up to the billing we were hoping. I think Arsenal were very, very good. Liverpool weren't at their best. I don't think it was certainly a game with two sides who were really playing to their full potential. But at the end of the day, Arsenal got the result, and I think despite the fact that Ramsey and Cazorla got the goals, I thought Mikel Arteta was particularly impressive in that game. He bossed the midfield, and I think that's where it was really won for Arsenal.
Why doesn't Cazorla get an assist for his goal, seeing as he belted it? He headed it onto the post and then followed up with a volley. Why doesn't he get an assist?
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but it should.
You can't be greedy.
It should, though.
But you can't.
You should reward brilliance.
But come on, he didn't aim for the post for it to come back to him.
He aimed for the goal.
Yeah, so he missed the goal scoring chance. So you can't get credit for that.
But he still set himself up.
No, I'm not buying it. I know what you're selling, but I'm not buying it.
Right. I know that look in your eye. I'm not even going to argue.
No, there's no point. No. And the last game then was the last game of the week was the All Welsh Premier League derby. I fancied Swansea to win this one. I was proved wrong in the end. It was actually a really good game.
So did I.
And I was very pleased with the result in the end, given that I had Stephen Cocker playing for me, and he was a 15-point defender. Thank you very much.
Get in there,
you little beauty.
Alright, we're going to talk about Game Week 11 in just a minute, but let us bring in Cian Tracy, because he has been monitoring very closely all the English Premier League players that were involved in the Champions League over the last 2 nights. So Cian, you're very welcome.
Hi lads, how are you?
Good. What were the standout players for you over the Champions League? I suppose we've just been speaking about Sergio Aguero, so should we speak about him and Negredo in action?
Yeah, it's good as any place to start. I mean, everyone knows how good a form Aguero is in, but I mean, you're right. The partnership he's formed with Negredo is sensational. I mean, City have scored 12 goals in 2 games, which has only been across 4 days. A trip to Sunderland this weekend, you know, you wouldn't back against them putting a few more past the Black Cats. They have a couple of injury worries ahead of it. David Silva and Fernandinho both picked up small injuries.
No, I was actually just gonna ask you about Silva, Cian. Do we think he'll be back, or should we be worried?
But there's, according to Pellegrini, they're quote small problems. I mean, a trip to Sunderland, he could still rest him. It's not. I don't want to dismiss Sunderland, but he might rest him. But they're rated at 75%, and with the golden rule, 75% usually means they'll play. Fernandinho, I mean, he does have cover in the midfield with like Javi Garcia, so he could slot in there. But I would think Silva will play this weekend. I think he's not going to want to disrupt the attacking flow that they have going at the moment, so I fully expect to see him play this weekend.
Yeah, there'll be quite a few of us hoping that, myself included, that he does play. And you're right, that's 75%.
I hope he doesn't.
Yeah, well, no one asked you.
I hope he does too, Phil.
No one asked you. But yeah, I mean, that's 75%. It's down as a calf injury. Generally, they're normally okay. But you are right, and given the fact that they are playing Sunderland, there is the chance that he might just decide, right, he is fit, but let's just give him an extra week's rest. But I mean, you would fancy them to keep the run going, especially given how many goals they've scored in
ahead of the
weeks.
international break as well. They'll probably say, once more to the breach, my friends, and then you can have a couple of weeks off.
Yeah,
that's true. Actually,
that's a very good shout. Yeah, I mean, Pellegrini isn't going to mind if Silva has to sit out, a couple of friendlies with Spain, but they will want to go into that break, continue the run, and they're just so good going forward at the moment. I think it would be if he was like fit. I think it'd be a mistake to rest him because they need to keep this run going while they're in the mould.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose if we look at some of the other games, Chelsea winning out against Schalke, yeah. No Fernando Torres, he was injured, and the Chelsea strikers actually scored some goals.
Edu scored 2 and Demba Ba scored. I was kind of disappointed by Schalke. I mean, that first Edu goal was just a calamity.
But that's it. Can we? I know it's his goal, but do we really give him credit for that?
Right place, right time sort of a thing.
Yeah, you got to be there. That's the thing as a striker. You have to be in the right place.
I suppose, yeah. And what's this I hear about Hazard missing? Was dropped because he missed training.
Yeah, he apparently on Sunday evening he flew back to France to watch Lille, and he didn't get back until late. I think it was on Monday, which meant that he was late for training on Monday. Now, obviously, Mourinho wasn't too impressed with that, so he dropped him from the matchday squad. So Mourinho has since come out and he's kind of diffused the whole situation. He says, he's young, he made a mistake, but he made no bones about it that he will be back involved on Saturday. So I don't think it's something to be majorly concerned about. But at the same time, Hazard is known for his shoddy timing. I mean, with the national team, he's been punished before for similar mistakes. So I do expect him to be back Saturday, but at the same time, I don't expect Mourinho to be as lenient if it happens again.
Right. There's no real danger for Hazard of losing his place.
No, I don't think so. Mourinho clearly said, I mean, I have a quote here, he's young, he made a mistake, but he's back Saturday. So I think, that kind of says it all, really.
Yeah, and I suppose we move on from that.
Sorry for the bad pun.
It was a terrible pun. That's why I'm not even acknowledging that. It was shocking.
Move on.
Moving on from that, Arsenal, impressive last night, beat Dortmund 1-0. Aaron Ramsey again.
Yeah.
11th goal of the season. I mean,
is he the top scorer for Arsenal? I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah,
he is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was just 5 weeks ago I was expecting this run to have been put to an end.
Oh, you and me both, yeah. I mean, it's kind of one as you go, I'll score a couple, then it'll fade away. There's no sign of it stopping, is there?
Yeah, his price is keeps going up. Now I already have 3 Arsenal players in my team, so I'm finding it difficult to make a difference. But I think he's still so cheap that you just have to have him in. I mean, he's providing assists as well as scoring goals. It was a real smash and grab display from Arsenal, but I think what I was impressed with was their clean sheet. I mean, going into the last few days, they played Liverpool and then Dortmund. I don't think Manny would have put them down for 2 clean sheets, especially that they have been impressive this season, but their problems have been at the back. So picking up 2 clean sheets against 2 potent attacking lines like Liverpool's and Dortmund is very, very positive for people that have Arsenal defenders in their team. Now I know they travel to United this weekend, which I'm sure you'll speak about later, but it's worth considering that if Arsenal can shore up that back line, they have the players going forward, so it all bodes well.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, there's any number of options. I mean, even looking at the goal in Dortmund last night, it was an Ozil ball into Giroud, knocked down for Ramsey, and in. It's that kind of the holy trinity, as we've been calling it over the last couple of weeks.
It's become so common now, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I think for a lot of fantasy managers, probably the biggest disappointment is that Ozil is slightly suffering that third man syndrome that we've referred to over the years, where he's laying on the pass for someone else to get the assist. But hopefully, we can see a bit more from him over the coming weeks. And I suppose it seems that Arsenal play United. We should probably speak about United's, can we say, poor display? I think we can.
Yeah, it was hardly convincing anyway.
Yeah, Ashley Young was up to his old tricks again.
Sniper on the roof.
Very tiresome. And Van Persie missing a penalty. That was a big shock. But and then Fellaini getting sent off. It was just kind of the icing on the cake of just a disappointing night. And they're just stuttering along, like, aren't they, in the Champions League? And their league form as well. It's just they've won their last previous 4 games prior to that. But obviously this weekend against Arsenal is a different matter. But in terms of fantasy football, it's difficult to know how United are going into this game, because you would have fancied them to pick up all 3 points in Sociedad, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, the one interesting point to note is the fact that David Moyes decided to kind of rest and rotate between Rooney and Van Persie, with Rooney coming off and Van Persie coming on. So he obviously has Arsenal in mind this weekend. So for fantasy managers,
and he rested the most creative Manchester United player, which is Januzaj.
Yeah. So I would expect all 3 of them to start this weekend, and I think that's probably the only shining light for fantasy managers coming out of that performance, is that they weren't fully exerted for 90 minutes in Spain. So from that point of view, we it's good news. But when you're up against Arsenal and the type of form they're in, regardless of whether they're at home or not, it's going to be worrying. But we'll certainly touch on that later on.
All right, thank you for that. We shall be speaking to Cian throughout the pods over the season, so Cian will be joining us very regularly and contributing. Thank you again, and have a lovely day, Cian, and have a brutal game week as always.
Cheers, lads, take it easy.
All right, that is Cian Tracy joining us from Limerick, I think. And that is our look back at Game Week 10 and the Champions League. Next up, it is Game Week 11. Before we start Game Week 11, it is early in the morning, so just want to introduce listeners to the pod to one of the best sounds on radio. You ready, Phil?
Go on.
Hang on, you talk.
Do I have to? I think we should listen.
Right.
Oh, very good.
Sugar intake is done. Let us crack on with Game Week 11. It's an interesting game week. I don't envy you your choices of featured games so much. There's one or two, one obvious one.
Yeah, that's where we'll start.
Start at Anfield then.
No.
What?
We'll start at Anfield.
All right.
Get out of here.
Fulham away. Go on. Where are you
No,
starting?
we haven't spoken about United and Arsenal. I think that's where we should start.
All right.
Arsenal make a trip to Old Trafford. We know the Gunners are unbeaten since game week 1. United are unbeaten in their last 3 with 3 wins and with 2 wins and a draw. If that makes sense. Yeah, yes. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
But
Champions League was confusing you.
It was confusing me.
Factoring it in.
But looking at United at home, 7 goals in 5 games is hardly typical United fashion, and also conceding 5 during those 5 games with 2 clean sheets. The Gunners have notched up 11 on the road in their 5 games and only conceded 4 with 1 clean sheet and that. So this one is finely balanced from a fantasy point of view, because you will find that obviously a lot of fantasy managers are going to have Giroud, Ozil, Ramsey, maybe they're going to have Mertesacker at the back. And then looking at United, Januzaj has obviously been a recent revelation, and fantasy managers have been flocking to him. And then you're still going to have people with Rooney and Van Persie. So as we said, luckily enough for fantasy managers on the United side, David Moyes decided to kind of rest and rotate Rooney and Van Persie, with one coming off from the other. And probably most promisingly for them is their league form is starting to pick up, with both of them picking up a goal and an assist each in the last 2 games. So that's good news from that point of view, especially for those managers who shelled out the 14 million on Van Persie and are still waiting on a return.
I'm sorry, it's just something in my throat there.
Maybe you need to take another drink.
Yeah, maybe I do. It's nice, yeah. You're dead right.
See,
cleared it right.
And then that young lad Januzaj, as we spoke about, he was obviously dropped the week before last.
His friends call him Adnan.
Are we friends?
No.
Why can't we be friends?
Januzaj, go on.
He was dropped in game week 9, or Yeah, game week 9, came back into squad game week 10 and picked up an assist.
Yes.
Performances like that are probably going to help ensure that he does continually feature for United, and that's 2 goals and
for
an
a young
assist in his
player,
last
he's
4.
very consistent.
But as much as it pains me to say this, it's very easy to look good in a team that aren't playing well. And it's not often you'd hear me say that about United, but they really aren't performing to their potential. So, and not to discredit his performances in any way, but they aren't firing on all cylinders, and that's probably why he's been getting the press he's been getting. Looking at Arsenal, I mean, obviously we know they played in Germany last night, so that's going to be a trip for them back from Germany and then up to Manchester. That can sometimes have a bearing on it, but like Keane said, Ramsey now is Arsenal's leading scorer so far this season with 11 goals and 17 appearances in all competitions. And then you've Giroud and Ozil who are still ticking away in the background. I wouldn't be rushing out to bring players in for either of these sides this week. But I think if you have them, they're going to have to play. I mean, Van Persie got a goal against Arsenal in the corresponding fixture last year, which was roughly this time of year. It was the 3rd of November 2012. Arsenal made the trip to Old Trafford. It was 2-1 to United, with Patrice Evra actually getting on the score sheet as well. It was a consolation goal from Cazorla in 5 minutes plus of added on time that got them their goal. But yeah, it's got to be the usual suspects here. I think given the fact that Januzaj was rested for the Champions League, I think we can expect him to start. So there was a lot of questions on live time on Twitter last week to us in asking us, will Januzaj start? He did, lucky enough, got the assist, So I think there's going to be a lot of managers worried about his rotation, but we'd expect him to start this weekend in that one. And that really kind of wraps it up. It is very much Rooney, Van Persie, Januzaj, and then the holy trinity of Arsenal of Ozil, Ramsey and Giroud.
Okay, let us keep going. Second featured game.
We'll go up north, up to Wearside. City are travelling to Sunderland, and I think we have to cover
a resurgent Sunderland. Can we say they were? I know they lost 1-0 in the last league game. They got 2 send-ins off.
Yeah, but they
were
did.
Unlucky.
Yeah, but they did beat Southampton in midweek in the Capital One Cup.
Yes,
which was a good result from. Albeit that the Southampton side that did play was not wholly recognisable of the Premier League one, but a win is a win. Breeds confidence.
Yeah, and I mean the loss was it to Hull?
Yeah, 1-0 to Hull.
And the 2 sendings off. I mean some of the challenges were
horrendous.
Yeah, that's
Catamol not so much, but I think you can't. There's no arguments with you.
Yeah, but for the rest of the team, I thought they did very well, even with 9 players. They were still competitive. They still had a few chances. Even with
I was a little
players.
disappointed actually, but once the second sending off happened, I was kind of going, right, Hull, push on. Let's get some goals. Let's build some momentum here.
There's a manager of Robbie Brady. Have you ever heard it?
No,
you've sold him. Okay.
And that's what I was looking for from Hull, that they push on, but they didn't quite do that. But listen, the results are results for them as well. But listen, let's make no qualms about it. This is all about City. It's fill your boots time. City, they've only won once on the road though. This is it though. This is the kicker. They've only won once on the road. That was in game week 8 against West Ham when they won 3-1. They've only scored 8 goals in 5 away games. Now I'm saying only, but that's purely based on the fact that they've scored 20 goals this season, which is 8 more than any other side.
Yeah.
With only 8 of those coming on the road. So they've notched up 12 at home. And they've conceded 9 goals, which is surprising. But again, they are looking...
They don't care though, we'll outscore you.
They are looking particularly dangerous going forward. As we said, they bet CSKA 5-2 on Tuesday night. Negredo hat-trick and Aguero with a brace. And you've got to look at Aguero. He is the must-have at the moment. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He's got to be in there. David Silva, like we said, is a slight doubt, so maybe Yaya Toure is the man to step in there.
Can I bought Aguero.
Good.
After the other day, I watched him on Tuesday night. I went straight to the computer and said,
"Thank you very much."
Right, I need to do this in 2 players.
I made no transfers last week, holding on to 2 to see maybe if I can worm Aguero into my side this week. I had a little flutter with it earlier on this morning while I was looking at some stuff, and I wasn't entirely happy with how my squad looked once I brought Aguero in, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I was kind of torn between selling Sturridge, bringing in Aguero, and then maybe looking at having Robbie Brady in my midfield.
I almost sacrificed Ozil to bring in Aguero, but then after 45 minutes of hard study, I realised that I didn't have to.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I mean, that's an option available to me. I have both Ramsey and Ozil. I could ship Ozil out and sell maybe Lukaku and bring in Aguero.
Yeah, I sold Giroud.
I
took some money off a defender.
It's got to take a bit of playing around, but listen, the moral of the story is very much Aguero is the man you should be looking at the moment. Joe Hart's future is still uncertain.
Pantilimon,
Yeah.
good value.
Yeah. It was quite a good headline I read actually after the Norwich game, and it was very simply Chris Hughton caught with his Pantilimons down.
Hey.
I thought it was brilliant. But yeah, it looks like Pantilimon is going to continue.
A little sneaky one for you. Steve Harper, playing for Hull at the moment. He's getting his game. He scored
As
8
McGregor's
points.
injured,
Yeah. He's 4 million.
Yeah, long term you're going to have to sell him. That's, I just...
If you need quick money.
Well, okay. But, we know about these quick money places. The interest on them is outrageous. That's all I'm saying.
That's
all
it.
I'm saying.
All right.
But yeah, City in this one, you'd have to fancy them for a clean sheet against Sunderland. So you will be looking at the back. I mean, Pantilimon is one to look at for the moment because it looks like he will continue. And then obviously you're looking at the likes of Zabaleta
He's a good
at the
keeper,
back.
Pantilimon.
He didn't have a whole lot to do. I mean, obviously we know he conceded 2 in the Champions League, but I mean, you can't argue with the goals they conceded. But yeah, I mean, long term as well, the chances are Hart is going to regain his place, and you will have to sell Pantilimon as well. I think so. I can't see Pellegrini staying with Pantilimon full term.
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
I think they might bring someone else in. I think they might bring another keeper in.
Come January.
Yeah,
Maybe so.
Get rid of Hart.
Oh no, they won't sell him.
One of those big English clubs will pay lots of money for them.
They won't sell him.
All right.
They won't. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest about it. It's the Aguero show. Silva, if he's fit, is also one, and then Yaya Toure has to be the other to look at. And I would suggest having 3 City players in. So maybe having a look at the defender like Zabaleta is probably your best bet.
Yeah, I've been threatening to get rid of Zabaleta, but I've kept him in. Probably not a bad day to have him.
It's very much Manchester City. Stock up.
Right, third game.
Third game I've gone for.
We're not even going to go for it. We're not even going to speak about Sunderland at this point. Give them another few weeks. They're on the bounce back, but they're not there yet.
No,
not for this game.
Nothing fantasy wise.
All right.
And the third game I've gone for is
Liverpool and Fulham.
No.
What?
I have gone down to White Hart Lane for Tottenham and Newcastle. Tottenham obviously are on a good run of form. Newcastle beat Chelsea last week. There's fantasy prospects on both sides of this game that I figure were better to be spoken about than just looking at Liverpool.
All right, I have no Tottenham players and I have no Newcastle players in my squad. Educate me.
Constantly educating.
I know, yeah, but specifically about
right.
the teams.
Well, I mean, looking at them going into the game, Spurs have only lost 1 of their last 6. 5 goals in 5 home games would suggest that they're only registering 1 a game, which is pretty poor by their standards. And they've conceded 4 at home in the 5 games, but they have kept 3 clean sheets at home. They have a total of 7 for the season, which is pretty good. Newcastle, on the other hand, they've lost 3 of their last 6, but of course that result against Chelsea will have given them great confidence. They've notched up 7 goals in 5 away games, but have conceded 11 during those 5, and they've no clean sheets on the road this term. So you would have to fancy Tottenham for goals in this one. I do think also, like, Newcastle do carry a threat. I did say last week I didn't fancy Chelsea for the clean sheet, that I thought Newcastle would threaten them. They threatened a lot more than I thought they would, and certainly Chelsea were misfiring. But I mean, Remy is certainly the main man for Newcastle looking at it. He's 6 goals in 6 games, and they're split 50-50 home and away, so he's not necessarily a homeboard or one that only produces on the road, like we've seen from Mata over previous years. Tottenham, Soldado, 2 goals and assist in his last 3. Again, spot kicks come into that as well, so open play goals are a bit of trouble. And the man I spoke about last week, Jan Vertonghen, did exceptionally well. He did play at left back last week, picked up 3 bonus points against Everton with his clean sheet, which was a good return for him. And then there's obviously another man worth looking at whose name I just cannot pronounce. It's in the centre half that's been brought in by Tottenham, Shadleys, or whichever way. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce it.
Jurikic's?
Yeah, something like that. His face.
All right.
He's also another one worth.
Vlad.
Yeah.
Call him Vlad.
Vlad the Impaler. No, we can't do that, can we? No, maybe.
Just Vlad.
Alright. Well, Vlad.
I don't know him that well. And I've no real desire to.
Really?
Yes.
I hear he's a nice guy.
I'm sure he's lovely, but...
At 5.3 million, he's one to consider as well, and he is a differential. His ownership rate is 0.2%. 0.2%. And it looks like he's going to continue there for the moment with Vertonghen playing at left back. So if you don't have the money to spend 7.2 on Vertonghen, I think he could be one to look at 5.3, because Spurs, as I said, are keeping plenty of clean sheets at the moment.
What about Dawson? He's getting a good run and he's scoring highly.
Yeah, Dawson, to be honest with you, does any one of the Tottenham defenders are worth looking at. Vertonghen seems to be getting forward an awful lot more than Walker is down the right. But just at his price of 5.3 and the fact that he's a differential could come in handy should he manage to get that noggin of his onto a set piece. and get you a goal or even an assist. So from that point of view, there's a bit of value there for him. And then Newcastle, obviously, like I said,
Stay away from the back.
Newcastle at the back, no, they're not. Having conceded 11 goals away from home this season, you can't.
Barge pole.
Wouldn't touch them with one. 10-foot one.
Even your one.
12-foot.
Your barge pole.
It's 12-foot.
Okay, grand.
Yeah, like I said, Remy's the one to look at there up front for Newcastle, and Cabaye is still
Get
picking
the measuring tape out of your hand. I'm not.
Cabaye is still picking up attacking returns with 2 goals and 2
Liverpool
assists
and
in his last
Arsenal
6.
sort of rumoured to be back interested
Again, I think he will go in January, but I think we expect him to play quite well between now and then. It's the same thing that we've seen over previous seasons, where players who are either looking for a move or looking to get a new contract extension start producing the goods, and we're expecting him to do that. So he could be one for your midfield that could be worth looking at over the next couple of weeks. I mean, like I said, he's got 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 6,
and he's looking to play himself out of there.
Yeah, it would very much seem that way. At 6
and he's good at doing that. He's good at putting on the performances, Cabaye, when it's all on top, isn't he?
Yeah, listen, in fairness to him, he's a habit of producing in big games. There's no doubt about that. And at 6.2 million, he could fit very nicely into a midfield where you are looking to accommodate Aguero. I'm just looking at my own team in particular there, and I could say, he is one that I could bring in, was I to sell maybe Ozil or Oscar and use another transfer to take out a striker. I could have him in there. Maybe that's something I might even play around with. But yeah, that's where I fancy goals in this one. The corresponding fixture last year was 2-1, and it was 2 Gareth Bale goals that sealed it for Tottenham. We're not going to have that this year, but certainly I expect it to be a similar kind of scoreline. I don't expect clean sheets.
Alright, there are 3 featured games. Next up, it is time for Best of the Rest. Right, let's start at Anfield.
You're mad to get to Anfield, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I just was convinced it would be one of your 3 feature games. I think Fulham away, Liverpool at home, Liverpool on the bounce off a 2-0 defeat to Arsenal. Brendan Rodgers will be sending the troops out very heavily for a win, and I think they'll be up for it. I expect a big win, but you don't.
No, I do. I do. Okay. Suarez, 11.7 million. Thank you very much. You'll have a bit of him all day. I think that debate over him and Sturridge may have been settled with the hat-trick
Suarez
2
or
weeks
Aguero?
ago. Aguero.
At the moment, yeah. So Sturridge, Suarez. Anyone from the midfield?
I actually fancy Gerrard this week. He's got a bit of a hip injury. He's 75%. We did a piece about him on the site there during the week about one of our midfielders to watch for this coming weekend. So
Fantasy Premier League Transfers.com.
Check that out. We suspect again that magic 75% that Gerrard should play, and we actually do think he is one to look at. His set piece prowess is one that's going to cause problems, and Fulham are not shy about giving away free kicks with the likes of Sidwell and so on in the middle of the park, who are not afraid to take you down.
Philippe Coutinho is back and fit. I know he only had 45 minutes the last day.
Yeah, he did only get 45. He was a big loss to Liverpool. I do suspect that he will come back strong, and we will start to see some returns from him, but it's a bit too soon. I think I would just hold off for the moment. He was very much the nearly man of the opening couple of weeks of the season. He had some great performances. Liverpool were playing well, but yet not a single goal or assist to his name. And that's very, very frustrating. Like, he started the season at 9 million. He's down to 8.5. I think if we can see him get in on the act, playing off the left of the front three, jump all over him. But for the moment, just hold fire on that one.
Stick him on the watch list.
Yeah, at the back then, you'd have to fancy a clean sheet, and Kolo Touré would be the one to look at, simply because Jose Enrique and Johnson are both doubts going into this one. See, that for me, Touré at 5 million is the cheapest option in there. Haven't said, well, him and Sissoko. Sissoko has got the capability of getting forward as well, but he only played 45 minutes last week. So that's a slight worry there. But I think just on the balance of guaranteed 90 minutes, and as we've seen from Touré, he did manage to pop up with an assist in game week 9 against West Brom. He'd be the one I'd be looking at for a defender there. And obviously Mignolet, if he's your goalkeeper, he's pretty much a good shout for a clean sheet.
Alright, and let's go to Stamford Bridge. Fernando Torres out with a muscle injury.
Yeah, Torres is out. He's not expected back until game week 12, which is after the international break. Starting at the back, I think you'd have to fancy Chelsea for a clean sheet against a West Brom side who haven't been exactly lighting up the scoreboards of late. Chelsea have only conceded 3 goals at home all season with 2 clean sheets, and they will be on the look to bounce back after that Newcastle defeat. So John Terry for me is the one to watch there. to lead from the back as a captain. At 6.4 million, he is in the slightly pricier side of things, but I do think he's worth it. And if you are that way inclined for an outside shout, I think after 2 goals in the Champions League, Samuel Eto'o will play, and at 8.3 million, he could be one who should he start scoring. There's a caveat there. Could be one to rival the likes of Benteke and Lukaku for that price range.
At two. At the whole bloody packet.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's where I see that one. Obviously, then you've your usual Hazard, Oscar debate. As we heard from Keane a little earlier in the show, Hazard was a very naughty boy and missed training on Monday, hence he was dropped from the Champions League. But Mourinho did say he's learned his lesson. He will be back for Saturday. So the other good way of looking at that is he's been rested.
Yeah.
So that could stand to him. We'll have to wait and see. Very much a case if you have either of those, of course, yeah, they're well worth a look.
Southampton and Hull.
Clean sheets. You've got to look at Boric again and Nathaniel Klein for me are the two that stand out in that. Southampton have only conceded 1 goal at home all season, and Hull, should I say, have only scored 4 goals away from home all season. And given the fact that they couldn't capitalise, like I said, against a 9-man Sunderland team, you'd have to fancy Southampton for another clean sheet. I mean, they would have had one last week were it not for that little mistake. So, we kind of that's them in a nutshell.
Wind.
Yeah.
Wind.
Sure, why not? And Lallana and Rodriguez are probably there. Lambert is still hit and miss with game time. In fact, Adam Lallana, I think, has been nominated for Player of the Month for October.
Another one of these questions for you: Cabaye or Lallana? 6.2, 6.6.
At the moment, I would probably go with Cabaye because he is more prolific with his returns, and like we said, he is playing for the move.
All right,
there you go.
Okay. Anywhere else?
Yeah, have a look at Everton. They travel to Selhurst Park to take on Palace. Palace still without a manager. A man I've spoken about a number of times, Kevin Morelos, is still one on the radar to be considered at 7.2. I'm expecting good things from him this weekend. Lukaku was rated at 75% as playing after he picked up a thigh injury after colliding with Hugo Lloris's
head. I think they've upgraded that actually to 100%. So yeah.
Oh, he's back. There you go.
Yeah,
that's in the change. That's probably in the last hour or so. Yeah. There's obviously been some more news. That's great. So either of those two are obviously worth looking at. We fancy them to beat Palace despite the fact that they're on the road. Outside of that, cheap midfielder is always a nice call for the day. And Ravel Morrison is one to look at 4.7 million. They face Norwich, who have been on a torrid run of late. 2 goals and an assist in his last 6, and West Ham have lost only once on the road this season. Now, of course, the Hammers are without some strikers. Carlton Cole is probably the only real striker they have, and considering they let him go last season saying he was surplus to requirements and now have brought him back in, tells you all you want to know. But Big Sam has been playing Morrison in a more advanced role week on week. Now it remains to be seen whether he'll continue to do that this week, but we still think that the fact that there are no real strikers there could play into his hands very, very nicely.
Alright, so that is Everton.
Yeah, and last man is Christian Benteke. You can't not count him. We know he had a great start to the season, hasn't reached the form we saw prior to his injury, missed a penalty in game week 9, didn't really get a whole lot going on last week against West Ham, I think they were playing, but I'd fancy him this week to do well against Cardiff.
Yeah.
Cardiff haven't travelled overly well. Most of their good results have come at home, so I'd be thinking, Villa have a good run of games coming up that they do need to start winning. It's Cardiff this week, West Brom, Sunderland, and then they hit Southampton. So there's kind of those 3 games I think they will have earmarked for 9 points, and if they're going to have any hope of doing that, it's got to be Benteke, because Vyman and Bonner-Lahore are both injured.
Yeah, and Villa on 11 points, just 3 points off the bottom 3. Norwich on 8 points, so that just shows you they really need to get some points to board when they can have these games. They're winnable.
Well, they're starting to keep it tight at the back, which is nice, which is good from them considering they weren't really doing so last season. So from that point of view, they've got it solid at the back. They just need to start getting some more goals again, and hopefully once Benteke finds the net once, he'll get back onto his usual rhythm.
No Swansea players this week, but we'll let them play themselves back into a bit of form before we talk about them probably next week.
Yeah, I mean, Swansea and Stoke for me, you could look at this for clean sheets maybe. Michu is going to be out, he's injured. Boney's only scoring.
Anything could happen.
Boney's only scoring from the penalty spot, and for all you know, Peter Crouch will get a hat-trick.
Yeah. All right, leave you with that. Okay, that is best of the rest. Next up, it is the most important question. Who will you pick for your captain? All right, Phil, there's few sort of predictable options. Go for it.
42 points in the last 3 weeks with 4 goals and 4 assists tell you exactly why Sergio Aguero is the only captain to look at this week.
Give us a vice captain then.
Luis Suarez, 6 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 games.
Yeah, and for players who are without one of those players,
if you are without one of those, where would you look? I'd look to get one of those in, first and foremost.
You are looking to get one of those in.
I am looking to get one of those in, exactly. Outside of that, I mean, you could have a cheeky punt on Benteke, like I said, against Cardiff this week. This Chelsea, one of the Chelsea players, I mean, if you've got Oscar or Hazard, they'd certainly be worth a look at home to the Baggies. And then, I mean, it's City, it's Aguero. If you don't got Aguero, you've probably got Yaya or you've got Silva. One of those is a viable option. I would find it a little bit too risky to pick a captain from United and Arsenal, but it could happen. There could be some very good points in that one, but it's too much of a risk. But yeah, that's for me, that's really about it. I mean, I expect goals in Tottenham and Newcastle, but pinpointing where they're going to come from is a bit of a... Remy's the only one who seems to be scoring any great regularity from either of those two sides, I suppose. But yeah, it's got to be Aguero's the main man. 4 goals, 4 assists in his last 3 weeks.
He seems to be playing a lot better since he's split up with his missus. Seems to have done the world of good.
Everyone plays better when they're playing for something. He's just playing for something a little different.
Hey! All right, let's leave it there. So Sergio Aguero nailed on for captain this week. Luis Suarez if you haven't got Aguero, and if you don't, you're buggered. Right, that is Captain's Picks. Well, that's all we've time for Game Week 11. Don't forget, we're not back next week. It is an international break. The Republic of Ireland, very, very exciting times for the Republic of Ireland.
It is indeed.
Martin O'Neill and Roy
the
Keane.
Dream Team, boy.
The Dream Team are taking over Ireland. We are at home to Latvia in the first game, and then away to Poland in Poznan. Almost a second home for the Irish.
Fact.
Let's hope they get on better in Poznan this time than they did the last time they were there, because they were pretty crap then. That is Game Week 11. Live time, of course, on Saturday morning from the lads at fantasypremierleaguetransfers.com. How do you get in touch, Phil?
You can get us on the Twitter machine. It's at FantasyPremTips. Include the hashtag LiveTime and send us in your questions and we will answer them. Simple as.
And if you want us to have an in-depth look at your squad and tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, just simply send us a screenshot. Take a screenshot of your whole squad and then email it to young Phil here. Phil, the email address, best one to get you at is?
Easiest one to remember, it's Phil at FantasyPremierLeagueTransfers.com.
Alright, so that is what you have to do if you want us to have a look at your fantasy football squad. Good luck with Game Week 11. Not a whole lot of luck, but you know, hope you do alright. Phil, I hope you do brutal.
Thanks, mate. You're a real sound like that.
Yeah, I know. It's good to start the day off, you know, on a positive note. We look forward to speaking to you all in 2 weeks' time. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.
Slán.